December 14th was the day that the states certified their votes and sent them to Congress. And in my view, that was the end of the matter.
To have the federal government seize voting machines, that's a terrible idea for the country. That's not how we do things in the United States.
These non-aligned groups were aligning. And so all the red flags went up at that point.
On January 6th, Trump knew the crowd was angry. He knew the crowd was armed. He sent them to the Capitol anyway.
Just a sample from the 3-hour hearing a bit earlier today. I want to bring in our panel. Ben Domenech is editor of the Transom.com and host of the Ben Domenech podcast on Fox News Radio. Morgan Ortagus, former State Department spokesperson, and Juan Williams, Fox News analyst. And good evening to the three of you tonight. Morgan, ladies first, how much did they move the meter today during this hearing?
Well, if you look at the Politico Morning Consult poll this morning, 69% of Americans said that these hearings would have minor to little effect on how they vote in November. A very famous Democrat politician once said, "It's the economy, stupid." So I think as long as the shelves are empty and the food that is on the shelves is, expensively priced, as long as you can't fill up your tank of gas and your grocery cart because you can't afford it, these are the things that Americans are going to vote on and the things that Americans are going to focus on if you look at all of the polling that I've seen thus far.
Juan, how did you read it today?
Well, I think it's, clear from today that it's hard not to understand that this is something that went beyond January 6th, that it wasn't just, January 6th was just the tip of the iceberg. With today, we heard about a meeting in the Oval Office with the president. Pat Cipollone, the White House counsel, said he went in there and there are people in there. He says he doesn't know how these people ever got into the White House. And, of course, later today, we heard from others who talked about President Trump being tied to the Oath Keepers, the Proud Boys, other white supremacist violent groups. And Liz Cheney said, you can't just somehow say, oh, yeah, these other people, Sidney Powell, John Eastman, are influencing the president. She said the president is a 76-year-old man, and he's got to be able to be held responsible for his actions. So just picking up on what Morgan was talking about, I don't know what the impact will be specifically on the midterms, but if the Democrats are able to make it a matter of about Donald Trump, that can't help.
Ben, not so sure how many more hearings we have, but they're not done yet.
They're going to drag this out as long as they possibly can because it's the only thing that they have to hang their hopes on for the fall, is to turn this into, as Juan says, an election about whether you think Donald Trump overstepped the bounds of the law or something along those lines. It's not something, unfortunately, that is a high priority for the American voter from the perspective of Democrats. Instead, they are facing the headwinds of an American people who have no faith in this White House, this president, his agenda, or his team to deliver anything other than what they've delivered to this point, which is leaving the American people out to dry when it comes to the economy, and certainly is a much higher priority for them than relitigating January 6th.
Let's turn our attention to the current administration and President Biden. Just this hour, leaving for Saudi Arabia on the South Lawn of the White House, stopped and took a question about that New York Times poll that was released yesterday that was just devastating. This is how he answered it.
Mr. President, what's your message to Democrats who don't want you to run again?
They want me to run.
Two-thirds city.
Read the polls. Read the polls, Jack. You guys are all the same. That poll showed that 92% of Democrats, if I ran, would vote for me.
So you had that, and you have today among Republican primary voters, the New York Times finds this. Donald Trump, who would you vote for? 49% choose the former president. 25% select Ron DeSantis out of Florida. Morgan, is your old boss going to get back in the game?
Probably. I hope he does. I mean, listen, I think President Biden is right. He should run, right? As someone who's going to support the Republican nominee in 24, I hope that they believe all of the things that they just said. We know in that New York Times poll that 13% of Americans think that the country's on the right track. 13% among 18 to 29-year-olds, which is, Democrats, some of their biggest demographic. 19% approve of Biden's job approvals. So listen, as someone who wants Republicans to win in 24. I say run, Biden, run.
Okay. He sounded, Juan, a bit defiant in that answer we just played.
Well, I mean, clearly there was bad news there, Bill, about the number of Democrats who are, despairing about Biden and don't really want him to run. But he's right. Let's give credit where credit's due. If he runs and it's against Donald Trump, he's right. 92% or something would vote. 92% of Democrats would vote for him. I mean, you got to realize that in part this is a dilemma. What we saw in that New York Times Siena poll was there's like half of Republicans who are still behind Donald Trump, but half who are not, especially younger Republicans, college-educated Republicans. That's a big challenge for Senator Mitch McConnell, the majority leader, trying to get a majority in the Senate, for Kevin McCarthy in the House, because they got a balancing act. How can they can't lose either one of those contingencies and expect to win in the midterms.
Ben?
The challenge for Ron DeSantis and others who have their eyes on the White House is that they would have to beat Donald Trump. He will not go away quietly. He will have to be beaten in order for them to succeed. The challenge for Democrats is that Joe Biden really needs Donald Trump to run in order to have any hope of winning. And the fact is that he wasn't answering that reporter's question honestly, because the reporter was bringing up the number of Democrats who don't want you to run. They'll vote against you against Donald Trump. Yes, they will. But they don't want you to run, and that number is going to continue to shrink as long as this administration continues to perform in the feckless and irresponsible way that it has to this point under Joe Biden.
Something to watch and a lot to watch, too. Nice to see the three of you. Ben Domenech, Morgan Ortagus, Juan Williams.
Nice
Thank
to
you.
see you.